Warning. This program may contain material of an explicit or graphic nature. Viewer discretion is advised.
Broadcasting undead from the B Ward, this is the Post-Mortem Show, and I'm JD, and I'm all alone, just me and Biff against the world, because Dom's still recovering from surgery, so we're not necessarily going to have a new show this week. I'm going to bring you, in honor of the upcoming release of Song of Solomon, our interview we did with Stephen Byro a while back. We're going to replay that, as well as a little best of Postmortem. And then we're going to give a Patreon sampler to the people who have been on the fence, haven't made the jump, signed over to Patreon yet. We're going to show you a little bit about what we have to offer in the form of our bonus content, some of our most popular Patreon segments after the best of and after the Stephen Byro interview. But Dom will be back next week. He is on the upswing. I saw him. He's got a big old back brace, and he is off the pain meds, and he's not a happy boy, but he will be back next week. And in honor of his surgery and recovery, we're going to bring you our top 5 horror movie surgeries next week. So enjoy the Stephen Byro interview, enjoy the best of Postmortem and the Patreon content, and we will see you next week.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show, founder and president of Unearthed Films and director of American Guinea Pig, Bouquet of Guts and Gore, and the upcoming American Guinea Pig, Song of Solomon, Mr. Stephen Byro.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Good, thank you so much for coming on the show. We're looking forward to Song of Solomon. Big fan of Bouquet of Guts and Gore, as well as a lot of the movies you produced in the past. So if you could tell us a little bit about the upcoming movie, Song of Solomon.
Yeah, it's a outrageous possession film. We love possession films, and nobody's really hit the nail on the head since The Exorcist. It's sort of surprising when you look at everything. So it's my take on the possession genre. We used 100% real exorcism rituals. I think this will be the first time that people actually see and hear the real rituals that are used, for the possessed by the Catholic Church. So it's quite exciting. I ended up having my actors learn Latin.
Wow, that's awesome.
That was fun. Yeah. It's really outrageous. Jeremy Cruz, who did all the effects for Toe Tag, and Marcus Cook, who did the effects for Bouquet and Blood. He directed Bloodshock and did the effects there as well. I brought them both on board, so it's going to be outrageous.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Marcus Cook, one of the best going today in practical effects, I would say. Excellent practical effects, and thank you for bringing a brutal, no punches pulled exorcism movie. Like you said, no one has got it right. Major Hollywood, the exorcism of this girl's name or that girl's name, it's all the same shit. And for staying so true to the exorcism source material, that we're really excited for this.
Yeah, I mean that's the crazy thing that going over all the possession films. They all just really ripped off The Exorcist. Everybody's got the green pea soup vomit going, and and everybody's slashed up for no reason. It's The Exorcist did that, and her face is covered with slashes, but where'd the slashes come from?
What kind of research did you do for putting together the real version of the ritual? Who did you talk to for that?
Oh, well, the funny thing is I've written my books I've actually had several different people be possessed around me before. I've had personal dealings with the devil. I almost became a minister a long time ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I wrote books on the subject. I mean, my book Hallucination is a memoir, and that was basically where I was taking enough LSD and nitrous oxide to go to the other side and trying to find God. And instead, really, I found the devil. And you could say I know quite a bit. And after, finding God and going to hell and experiencing the other side, angels and demons and stuff, really did throw me into a loop. And I studied theology really hardcore trying to figure out what happened to me. So I've used some of these experiences that I went through in the Song of Solomon. And so I mean, I actually bought the Exorcism book from the Vatican Library, just to make sure we had 100% real exorcist rituals. And the crazy thing is that there's only 200 of them ever made, and for some odd reason, they thought I was a Catholic priest, so they sold me one.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. Yeah, that's definitely delving deep to get into it. So yeah, experimenting with drugs and encountering that kind of circumstance yourself, that must have been a good influence going into it. What are some of when you talk about American Guinea Pig? We talk about Bouquet of Guts and Gore. We talk about Song of Solomon, and I know you've produced and did writing for a lot of other movies. What are some of your major influences that you saw in film that wanted to get you started on making movies?
Well, the thing is, I mean, making movies, you got to be crazy. The industry's sort of in the tank. So, and I know so many people, filmmakers, that are not making their budgets back, much less making any money. So it's actually sort of crazy. If I didn't have distribution, do my own international sales, I wouldn't do it.
Fair enough.
I know the fans don't want to hear that, but yeah, a lot of people are struggling out there. So it just, for me, it was a natural fit because I've been doing this, the distribution through Unearthed Films since 2002. And before that, I had a underground independent video store, and I used to sell copies of videos, way back in the day.
Tape trades.
Yeah. And I mean, I was a hardcore horror fan from when I was a little kid. So I always loved horror films, and around like when I was 12 years old, I mean, I'm 47 now. We actually had the first VCR ever made, and the things were about $3 or $4 grand. And we would go to the video store, and the video store was lucky to have like 200 copies of movies at all, because it was still so new. And watched Phantasm, and then my parents, they rented Flesh for Frankenstein.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, 13-year-old watching Flesh for Frankenstein with their parents. Yeah, that was quite an interesting thing. So ever since then my horror tastes got more extreme. So basically, the harder and the more crazier they were, the better off they were. So that's what I'm trying to do with the Guinea Pig series, is to give the fans who are tired of the mainstream watered down stuff, give them something to actually look forward to, because they know it's going to be outrageous gore effects and just pure terror, grossness, and blah.
So watching Bouquet of Guts and Gore, one thing that really stood out for me the whole time I was watching it is that I felt like I was looking at a smaller piece of a larger story. When they had the characters talking about the benefactors and the ritualistic nature and how things had to be done a precise way and all that. Did you have in your mind a sort of larger setting that this movie was taking place in?
Oh yeah, that's I'm glad you caught that, because if you actually watch Bloodshock, it's the same thing. They're harvesting and torturing. They're harvesting blood from patients that they're torturing, because when you're tortured, your body is releasing adrenaline, adrenochrome. It's releasing different chemicals to take the pain away, but you get the rush and stuff. So they're harvesting the blood for unseen producers there as well.
Right.
So there is a theme. If I'm lucky and I get to where we want with the guinea pig series, it'll put a nice cherry on top to where most of them will somehow fit all together.
Okay, so they aren't just individual shocking stories. They're actually part of a greater whole that you're envisioning?
Yeah.
Awesome.
If we can get to that far. You see,
Right.
that's the trick. I mean, we have American Guinea Pig Sacrifice. It was directed by Poison Rouge. They made it in Italy, and they were shooting at the same time we were doing with Solomon, but they're finished. And we've announced it. We had a secret screening of it at Texas Frightmare, which sort of blew everybody's minds because they weren't expecting a fourth guinea pig already done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I heard some stuff about it too, like on Beneath the Underground and on Facebook and stuff. People just losing their minds, saying it's really crazy, and we're looking forward to that one as well. Song of Solomon, though, with the religious aspects, like you were saying, it seems to be it has a very deeper meaning for you personally, as well as for anyone who's experienced those kind of phenomenon before, and that's something that a lot of these newer horror movies are missing as far as like the mega produce and the Netflix movies and direct to video. It's all just we're going to do some jump scares, we're going to do this and that without that greater meaning, like you said, with what you experienced.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's like because Bouquet of Guts and Gore was the prequel to Flower, Flesh and Blood, because that one it's at the beginning of Flower, Flesh and Blood, the original Japanese film and guinea pig. The director at the beginning of the film, he says, I received a Super 8mm film in the mail. I watched it. It was a snuff film, and this is my recreation of that film I saw.
Oh.
So
Wow.
So that's what Bouquet is.
Yeah, the film that he saw.
Okay, I didn't put those two together.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
I didn't catch that either. That's awesome. And you brought a lot of those movies to American audiences through Unearthed Films as well as a bunch of other foreign films. What got into starting the distribution company? Was that, like you said, you just started small with tape trading, things like that, and eventually expanded with all these international markets?
Well, what's funny was that I was actually selling bootlegs of guinea pig, and I got hit up by the company in Japan, and they said, hey, you're not allowed to be doing that, but, we notice you have a history page on the guinea pig films, and you know about the films better than we do. Would you like to buy the rights? And I was like, ooh, how much? And they gave me a price, and I was like, ooh, no. I'm going to have to start a company and manufacture and DVD author and this and that, I'm like, how about we start a new company and we split it 50-50? And they're like, no, we can't do that. They call me back a month later. Okay, well, would you do it for this price? And I'm like, no, I got to do this and that. How about we start a company and we split the company 50-50? And they're like, no, we can't do that. And then I get a call next month. Okay, so if we start a company together, and next thing you know, Unearthed was born.
2002, you said, right?
Yep.
Wow, yeah. Been quite a while, 15 years then.
Yeah, and I actually just went and looked at your website, and you've got a lot of gold on that site, man. You've got some stuff that people only kind of whisper about on the internet. And how do you go about finding these movies? Do you go and look for them, or do people come to you with them?
Well, most of it was me going looking for them, and we're trying to be, well, not trying to be. I mean, we are, the most extreme DVD company in the world. It's nice when I have major film festivals like Sidges and whatnot actually say that and promote us like that. So yeah, I mean, I try to get, the harshest stuff known to man, but it's got to be good.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. A friend of the show, Lucifer Valentine, who allowed us to screen the Regurgitated Sacrifice at one of our live shows. We've been in contact with him, and we definitely promote his films heavily on the podcast. And a lot of the Unearthed releases for that, and even Black Metal Veins. So you got a lot of Lucifer Valentine on there, Guinea Pig. If you guys haven't heard of Unearthed Films, our listeners, you got to check this website out. You can order basically any of the good stuff from there.
So let me ask you this: being a connoisseur of these kind of films, and really kind of putting them out there in the world, um, do you think that when the common audience looks at something that's an extreme horror film, whether it's American Guinea Pig or whether it's the Vomit Gore trilogy that Lucifer Valentine made, and they immediately go, "Oh, that's torture porn"? People like JD and I can look at some of this stuff and say, "No, this is actual art." Do you think that there is a difference between torture porn and art? And if so, what would create that difference?
Well, if you look, okay, prime example is Bouquet of Guts and Gore. That is torture porn.
Okay.
Okay. But it's done artistically. I mean, you're watching for the effects, which are gorgeous and this and that. But, every slice and saw that goes back and forth against the bone and whatnot, it is almost like the beginning and culmination of, watching pornography, And then, the how do you say, the money shots, where it's like the ultimate, death, the eyeball slicing and this and that. So it's like the slow dismantling of a woman is the sex part, and then the money shots are the eyeball and stuff like that. So I've heard everybody throw the title torture porn around and stuff, but it's always for movies that aren't torture porn,
Yeah, they say Saw and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's, it's some people just like to automatically put or force a movie into a specific genre to make themselves either feel better or, I think it's just intellectually lazy to call anything torture porn unless it's actually real torture porn,
So it's more about the intent of the creator than anything else.
Right. Yeah. So, and that's what Bouquet and Guts and Gore is. That's an answer. That's like, no, this is torture porn.
Awesome.
The real torture porn.
Something I really did want to compliment you on with Guts and Gore. I've seen Bouquet of Guts and Gore a couple times now, and something that always impresses me about it is the sheer attention to detail on it. Not just in the gore, but in things like using the right tools to cut through bone, or what happens when things go wrong, or making a point to tourniquet the limb before you cut it off because you don't want to kill them right away. How much research did you do going into that?
Oh, quite a lot. I got books on anatomy, Gray's Anatomy. I got, I've watched quite a lot of stuff when I was younger, which I'll never watch. I used to watch all the real stuff, and yeah, but people can live for way too long, and that's the thing, because, I've had people say, oh, well, no, the person wouldn't live that long. And it's like, yeah, no. Have you seen people ripped apart in car accidents?
Yeah.
And they're cut in half, and they're still like, they're still alive in shock. It takes a while. You sort of get amazed. And yeah, I mean, that was the one thing, you watch Flower, Flesh, and Blood, and it's like, okay, she should have bled out already. And so we're like, okay, tourniquets, the drugs. I mean, I tried to make sure that it was as realistic as possible, just because, it makes it even better.
Yeah, definitely.
About halfway through watching it the first time, I suddenly caught on, like, one of the things that kills people when they're in accidents isn't necessarily getting their limb ripped off. It's when they panic afterwards and thrash around, then they bleed out. Where in your movie, you did something very smart and you gave them that drug with that paralytic agent in it, and they weren't moving around, And about 45 minutes into the film, and I'm starting to think, wait, wouldn't she be dead by now? Oh no, it was the drugs. Smart move.
Yeah.
We tried.
A lot of people too, they think they're conditioned by what they see in just general horror movies, to where, like, guy gets stabbed, guy falls down, guy is dead in a slasher movie, like right away, that kind of thing. To where in real life, unless you really got like stabbed in one of the main veins or right in the heart, you kind of be bleeding and in pain, writhing for a while, not just kind of dead right away, and that's why people are like, oh, well, it takes too long. No, because they're looking at fake stuff, comparing it to other movies with fake kills when you actually did your research and went with the tourniquets and things like that. So, yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, the stabbing, I mean, because people in prison get stabbed a lot. And they've had people stabbed 60, 70 times, and they lived.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, and that's the thing. I mean, I don't want to give away something in a future guinea pig, but yeah, blunt head trauma and stabbing. Yeah, that stuff goes on for a lot longer than what they show in movies.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
yeah, so when we, I mean, look at that guy that was in Miami that had his face eaten off.
Yeah, yeah.
Guy did that. Guy was eating his face for 18 minutes, and he survived.
Was that the train one?
No, it's everybody thought it was the guy was on bath salts, but he was just psychotic and had some pot in his system.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one. Yeah, the bath salt. Everyone's scared of bath salts all of a sudden.
Yeah, and it wasn't bath salts at all. So
going into when you started to make movies and get interested in this kind of thing, who were some of your major influences as far as directors?
well, at the time, it was Coscarelli, Raimi, and Jackson.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, Barker's Hellraiser was phenomenal. So it was like I mean, it was those main three guys, but those guys have like moved way farther ahead.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah. Then you look at the Argento and the Fulci stuff, and the thing is, Fulci just cranked out movies left and right, and Argento had his had a great heyday for a while. I don't know what he's doing now.
We often talk about Peter Jackson, and if he hadn't went to the fucking Hobbits, what would we have gotten after Frighteners? Like, what? Imagine if he never got that contract and he was still making horror movies today, and it's 2017. It's 20 years removed from Frighteners. What could we have gotten from him? I wish he could come back to the genre just for a few movies. That would be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, but he does splatter, which is more like the joy of effects,
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, Bad Taste and Dead Alive, I mean, it's like a celebration of gore,
Yeah.
and it's like funny, it's like happy, it's like Sam Raimi with Evil Dead, yeah, that was vicious. And then Evil Dead 2, he softened up and they went for the fun, jokey stuff. It's still great friggin' movie, and then, the thing is when the horror guys get a taste of that mainstream money, yeah, it's really, it's like then they'll dip their toe into it a little bit. I mean, Raimi did produce the new Evil Dead, and he had I don't know why he had that director, 'cause the guy, he made like this short sci-fi robot invasion movie, and it was like 7 minutes long or something. It was phenomenal, and he got into a bidding war, and I guess Raimi won, but then he directed the new Evil Dead, and it's like, well, wait a minute, that wasn't, was doing sci-fi. Why would you give him the Evil Dead? I mean, the Evil Dead remake was good. It had its moments. But, it's just like, wait, plumb the depths of the horror genre and pick out a couple of great directors and get them going, At least that's my take on it.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I mean, I was expecting it to be horrible, but just because, when they touch classic movies, like, I don't know if you even wasted your time with the remake of Martyrs or any of the, what they're doing now with any of the kind of brutal horror movies, and then they're going ahead and remaking them, Americanizing them. It's just too much to me. The remakes, it's just a little bit more creativity and less remakes, be better for everybody.
Yeah, no, it would be, but, that's the, I mean, I can understand, making movies is a terrible business decision.
Yeah.
And I can see, trying to get the most eyeballs on it, so that's a more mainstream thing right there. But, at the same time, doing that, you actually take away the horror from the horror film.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, that's the hard thing. I mean, because I've just moved recently out here to Los Angeles, and the ones who have made the vicious horror movies, and the financiers are scared of them, afraid.
They think they're legit psychos and they're using their money to make snuff films.
Yeah, or they're just like, oh my goodness, no, this is we need to get more eyeballs on this. And it's just like there's a couple of directors I know that, man, if they had the opportunity, that they'd make horror vicious again,
Yeah.
which is what it's supposed to be. I mean, it's a horror film. It's not a friendly film. It's not a comedy. It's not this. They need to go back to the roots. And the shame of it is that a lot of the films that are being made for about 300,000 to 400,000, they're not making their money back. They're not recouping it. And some of the ones that are at the $1 million budgets, you know, they're having a hard time scraping a living too. But it's got to be made in such a way to where it is horror, but you can get a lot of eyeballs on it. So I don't know. It's just a hard industry right now.
Yeah, definitely with the internet, you know, things have changed, and, you know, there's a lot more bad movies coming out. You know, you look at some of the ones like on Amazon Prime and stuff to where it is, you know, not necessarily high budget movies and stuff, but just kind of flooding of the industry, and then also with people pirating everything, it's hard for anyone to make a buck these days.
Oh yeah, no, the industry's flooded, and every time I turn around, somebody's like, I'm going to make a movie, and I'm making a short, and I'm like, oh my God, guys, don't. You're flooding the industry. There's no retail stores anymore.
Yeah.
And yeah, the piracy is killing us. Wow. And the thing is, the piracy's been going on for so long, because like at around 2007, the internet became so fast, you could download a movie in 5-10 minutes. Before with dial-up, it'd take you 2 days.
Yeah, definitely.
If you ever even got it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, and damn Kodi Fire Stick is killing us too. Yeah, people are buying that off of Amazon because Amazon sells it, but they also sell it to other sellers, and they're loading it up with all the piracy apps and selling them for cheaper than what Amazon is selling them for.
wow.
So people are thinking they're getting the legitimate Amazon thing, but they got the stick filled with piracy software. And I've known many friends whose family members and parents, you know, buy it, and they're like, "Oh my goodness, look, you can watch King Kong Unleashed and blah blah blah, Kong Island, whatever." And they don't even realize that it's piracy.
Wow.
Yeah, there is so much piracy that it is hard sometimes for people, you know, like kids and stuff. Kids right now going into high school and stuff like that, they won't even realize what they're doing is piracy.
Yeah, they're so used to it. They're so
Yeah.
accustomed to it. It's like part of their culture now. And it seems like now if you want to make a movie, you know, and make it good, you on some level you have to do it just because it's in you and because you love it, you know. It's if no one's getting rich off of it anymore.
No, there's not. I mean, that's the scary thing about it is, you know, the industry's changed so drastically, and you know, releasing a movie is even like a challenge nowadays because you're up against. I mean, all the bands, they're not making money from sales of their CDs or anything anymore. They're just making their money off of going live concerts,
Yeah,
and
touring
selling their
and stuff.
merch.
Yeah.
You know, they're not making their money off of. That's why you see so many concerts going on all the time, because that's the only way they can make a living. And then we're up against, you know, the video games. I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm afraid to buy a new video game deal just because it's almost like playing a movie.
Yeah, it's very true.
And you know, a lot of the ways that people, and I know you do it too, is the ways that people are still trying to get people is through limited editions, collector's editions, signed, you know, that kind of stuff, to where the collectors are going to go for it, as opposed to, you know, if it's just the movie and people are pirating it, that you can't pirate something that's a limited edition DVD or signed or pages of a script, you know, that kind of, those little perks that people are doing. That's like the only thing really going that's, you know, besides just fan dedication, that's really keeping the genre alive for underground nowadays, it seems like.
Oh yeah, I mean that's the crazy thing. It's like, okay, if you take a look at Arrow and Shriek Show or Scream Factory, they're putting out The Thing, Return of the Living Dead, and they're making these limited collector's editions to where they'll sell 3,000 of them out the door in like 20 minutes, 30 minutes. But what we used to be able to sell 100,000 units of, or 200,000 units, is now like, you know, The Thing and Return of the Living Dead's like 10,000 at the most. So we've lost a lot of people Just because, there's some people just want to see the movie, others just love to have it in their collection. Like even the comic book industry, they took a massive hit. And they're trying to run around, and the only way they're making money is off those all the movies. And that's why you're seeing a flood.
Licensing,
Do you think that with things being that way, that there will be a time where the pendulum swings the other way, and maybe because there's only so much room for good stuff to have money made off of it with a limited edition stuff, that maybe the shit will start to dwindle because there's just no way to support it?
No.
It's only going to get worse?
It's going to get worse. If you take a look at YouTube, and you look on there and you see all the trailers, all these different trailers for movies that you never knew existed and they've never been out. And for some odd reason, they're still making more. And if you got a nice YouTube channel, you're actually producing content. And everybody's trying to produce content. So it's going to get worse because it's getting really narcissistic out there. And everybody wants to have their, 5 minutes of fame. So it's just the flood's gonna continue.
Yeah.
It's gonna be hard to dig through to find those gems, and there will be some gems here and there, but sometimes you gotta dig.
That's the story of our lives, man. That's what we do.
Keep digging.
Yeah. Our shovels are coated in shit, but every once in a while we find something great.
You unearth a diamond in the rough, and it's nice when you do find them, but how much crap can you go through?
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's the thing, and that's and the collectors, they've been buying up, and they're like, yay, and then they watch the movie and they're like, boo, okay, you got me on this one. And it's sort of interesting. I mean, it's like the directors now are becoming the stars.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to end on a low note with the collapse of the film industry and everything, but so to kind of turn it back to a positive, when can we expect to see Song of Solomon out? Is there any release date yet, or tentative? When you think it's going to be out?
No release date yet. We're still doing the color correction and some Foley and working a little bit on the music still. We're hoping, to have a nice world premiere at a film fest. We're going to do the film festival circuit with it. Sacrifice will probably be released the same time as Solomon will. So it'll be a little bit, because we gotta get the hype up, because the Solomon is just so different, and I know it's got the American Guinea Pig name in front of it, but it's it's got the guinea pig moments in it, but it's more of a real film.
More psychological, huh?
Nah, I don't know. I mean, it's heavy duty. I mean, anybody who's a Christian or no theology, it's gonna freak them out, and especially when the song happens. I think nobody's going to be prepared for that. So it's going to be something. I've showed it to a couple of close friends, and they're just like, oh my goodness, wow, okay, yeah, I think you just changed your life.
Wow, I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, me too. And we are in California as well. We're in Central California. We're about 4 hours north of LA, but we will definitely be coming down when you screen it in LA, whenever that festival happens. And I'm sure we'll run into each other at the conventions and stuff. We're about to start hitting conventions too for Postmortem, since we're kind of got our audience expanding now. So we're looking forward to it, and we'll shake hands, say hi in person one day soon.
That'd be great. Yeah, it'd be great to meet you guys.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, and we will definitely be plugging your trailer. Anything else you want to plug before we go?
Yeah, hit up the Indiegogo, people. We need to sell as many DVDs and perks and props as we can. If we get to $25,000, we unleash Sacrifice, so that'll be available as well. And the idea is hopefully to get back the budget and then be able to have enough to make the next guinea pig.
Awesome.
Where can people find you online if they want to look for you?
Unearthfilms.com. We're on Facebook. We're pretty much everywhere. The American Guinea Pig series is on Facebook as well. The only thing we're not on is MySpace, so don't go there.
You're not on Farmers Only either?
Yeah, no, exactly. Christian Mingles, ChristianMingles.com.
Christian Mingle presents The Song of Solomon.
Yeah, love story. It's a love story, I swear.
All right, we'll definitely be sharing the Indiegogo campaign and everything. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Oh, thanks, guys.
Up right now on the Postmortem Show Patreon, we have Creepy Pastas.
Hey, it's a creepy pasta. That's a spicy horror meatball.
Hunting Season, Judgment, Delivery, It Came from Fox News, Handsome Stranger, and Wildfires, all written by Dom and myself.
We have Postmortem Off Topic.
Off topic.
Featuring Count Alessandro di Cagliostro, Gigi Allen, The Illuminati, The Lobster Boy, and Jack Parsons.
As well as Stroke's Docs. Stroke's Docs.
Stroke's Dogs.
The Selfie Killer and the Greyhound Bus Killer, with Stroke's Docs 3 dropping next week.
Ooh.
We've been sending out stickers to all of our patrons, as well as handwritten letters of love, and we're going to begin listener shout-outs at the end of this episode.
And if you go check out our music section, you can hear music from Weapon A, Grave Command, Public Defecation, Old Scratch and the Necrophonic Orchestra, and Mechanical Ghost. And I've just released a new album, and if you're one of our $20 patrons, you get that album for free.
As well as the Best of JD Horror Deathmatch Series Volume 1 DVD video download. There will be more! We have shirts coming for our $50 patrons, as well as you patrons that are below the $50 level. We will be giving discounts on the shirts to sell on the website as well. So, more stuff coming, new off-topics, new creepypastas, a lot more on Postmortem Show Patreon.
Thank you if you're a patron, and if you're not a patron, why the fuck not?
Just give us 1 month.
1 month.
You won't be sorry.
It'll change your life.
And you get the episodes early. Forgot to say
right,
that.
yeah.
You get the episodes early every week. We're going to do this commercial every week and kind of update it, so...
Until all of you are patrons.
Until all
So
of
if
you
you're
are
sick of it, do your part in making us not have this commercial anymore.
And coming soon, ad-free Patreon. Ad-free patron. All right, thanks a lot, guys. And we're back! With the top 5 monster mashups.
We do the mash.
We did the monster mash, and it was a postmortem smash.
Yeah.
So these are going to be non-horror movies, rebooted, remade, and combined with an existing horror movie.
Whatever happened to my Transylvanian twist?
You want to start us off?
Sure. My first one is called Eat, Pray, Kill.
Eat, Pray, Kill, huh?
Julia Roberts stars as the lost daughter of the Sawyer clan. After her...
So Pretty Woman?
Yeah. No, Eat, Pray, Love, Beach, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. After her inner fight to resist her cannibalistic urges ruins yet another relationship, she sets off to travel the world, meet interesting people, learn about their cultures, and then eat them. It's a heartwarming journey of spirituality, self-discovery, murder, and human flesh consumption.
I like it. Who would direct this movie?
This would be directed by Roman Polanski.
Awesome. Hopefully you wouldn't be touching little girls on set or anything. My number 5. So I'm going to list the movies and then do my plot, what they're combined with. So, my number 5 combines Jack Ketchum's The Woman with Encino Man. When two bumbling idiots who are implied to be stoners but never show them smoking weed, because this is a PG-13 horror movie, dig up their yard to make a pool for their 20th high school reunion, not the prom this time.
Right.
Because it's been about 20 years since Encino Man. They uncover a frozen cannibal who they keep locked in their basement and try to domesticate and teach to wheeze the juice. But here's the kicker. It's Encino Woman, and it's played by Pollyanna McIntosh, who played the woman.
Right.
Starring that aged Pauly Shore and the fucking Hobbit fuck Sean Astin. And Pollyanna McIntosh.
And Brendan Fraser's like, what the fuck?
Brendan Fraser's written out of the story. I can't stand that fucker. But no, it's her. She's the woman. They find her when they're digging up the pool. Why would they need to dig up another pool 20 years later?
Life never changes.
They're still just losers. They have got no job. They still live at their mom's house. Here's our foreign exchange student. But honey, you're 40.
Why does she only have one nipple?
So since it's a PG-13 horror movie, it's going to be directed by a team of Lucky McKee, who did The Woman, and Mike Flanagan. Because we know with PG-13 horror, Mike Flanagan can actually do it.
Yeah.
So, Encino Woman.
Okay.
The Woman and Encino Man.
Nice.
The logical combination, Encino Woman.
Makes sense.
How many fucking cavemen are in Encino?
Apparently there are a lot.
There's a whole settlement that got frozen.
All right. My next one is, I'm not even going to need to say what movies it is because it's right in the title.
Okay.
Friday the 13th. Directed by Tyler Perry.
Dude, this is my number 4 also.
Really?
Yeah. Friday and Friday the 13th.
Let's see how ours match up.
All right, you go first.
All right, mine is Ice Cube and Chris Tucker stars stoners Craig and Smokey. After sending the infamous Debo to prison once more, the duo is forced to enter witness protection when Debo escapes from prison and swears revenge. To move them as far away from the hood as possible, their FBI contact gets some jobs as counselors at Camp Crystal Lake.
That's awesome.
Ridiculousness ensues as the two of them are not good counselors, but then the comedy ramps up when they discover a wild weed patch in the woods. Soon, though, the counselors start disappearing, their mutilated bodies strewed about the woods. Is this the work of the escaped Debo gone mad with his lust for revenge? Or has the spirit of Jason Voorhees returned from the grave to seek out more blood? It turns out both are the case. But in a shocking turn of events, Debo ends up going to battle with Jason because he's not going to let anyone else kill Smokey and Craig. Also,
so Debo versus Jason instead of
Also, Chris Tucker screams a lot.
Dude, I like it. I like it more than mine, but I'm still going to give you mine.
All right.
Mine is a little bit off the rails. So, Friday the 13th after next.
Okay.
Like Friday after next and next Friday and all that shit. A serial killer named Debo Voorhees rides his squeaky bike wearing a hockey mask and stalks the streets. But stalks the streets of the ghetto of Camp Crystal Lake. But also, he is Zeus from WWF underneath the mask because it's played by Tony Lister.
Camp Crystal Lake.
So it's a Friday and Friday the 13th crossover. Also, it's No Holds Barred.
Okay.
It stars, since Macho Man is dead, and the iconic cage match of Macho Man and Zeus versus Hulk Hogan and Brutus the Barber Beefcake.
Right.
Lanny Poffo, the genius, Macho Man's younger brother, is going to star, in addition to Tiny Lister, Ice Cube, Chris Tucker, and CGI Macho Man Randy Savage. And also the Too Many Damn Enchiladas guy from Friday the 13th.
he needs
He'll
to be
fit
there.
right in there. Yeah, fit right in there. So, my grandmama Voorhees gave me that chain.
He could be the referee in the match.
Directed by wrestling superstar Virgil.
Nice.
Friday the 13th after next.
That's good.
It's a No Holds Barred and Friday the 13th. Those are all things I love.
Yeah. Crazy lightning.
Debo Voorhees on the squeaky bike. Well, you know how in the one where there's like psychics and shit in Friday the 13th?
Yeah.
And Jason's mask gets ripped off and you see his face a bunch. Yeah. And that's going to happen. But underneath it's Zeus with the unibrow and the Z's shaped into the center of his head.
And he and Jason both are kind of cockeyed, so it works. All right. My number 3 is Robin Hood, Prince of Hell. Co-directed by Clive Barker and Lucifer Valentine. Kevin Costner stars as Robin Hood. On a routine robbing of the rich, the merry men obtain a mysterious puzzle box, which they bring back to Sherwood Forest. One by one, the men are seduced by the box, thinking that if they open it, they'll find some great treasure inside, and one by one, they're torn to pieces by Pinhead and turned into hellish Cenobites. It's up to Robin Hood to stop the Cenobites before they leave Sherwood Forest and terrorize Nottingham, but Robin, who's been drinking a lot because the sheriff of Nottingham recently killed his girlfriend, Maid Marian, is forced to ask himself the big question. What if these demons were actually sent here to punish the corrupt denizens of Nottingham, specifically the sheriff? and in a moment of blind anger, Robin lets the Cenobites go. But before they leave, Pinhead's chains tear Robin limb from limb and rebuild him into a demonic monstrosity portrayed by a combination of Kevin Costner and Hank Skinny in a single flesh monster suit, who then leads the charge into Nottingham by shooting barbed arrows and puking in the faces of the people of Nottingham until they are all dead.
That's awesome. I love it. My number 3 is called American Die.
Okay.
It's a combination of American Pie and Stephen King's Thinner. When Eugene Levy drives drunk and hits an old gypsy woman with his car while getting a beach, the woman's husband puts a curse on a pie and gives it to the family. When a teenage Jim gets horny and fucks the cursed pie, he becomes rapidly thinner, as with each continuous orgasm and spill of man goo. He loses 5% body fat every time he comes.
Just keep
But he
fucking
can't
the pie.
resist because he's a horny teenager,
Right.
so he keeps beating off and fucking the cursed pie.
Sexy cursed pie.
With each 5% body fat he drops, the hilarity ensues. Starring Eugene Levy, Jason Biggs, Joe Mantegna, and Doug Jones as the gypsy.
Nice.
Directed by Peter Jackson to get with the gore and comedic chops in his return to horror comedy, American Die.
Nice. My number 2 is Oliver Stone's The Wolf of Elm Street. Leonardo DiCaprio stars as Jordan Belfort, a corrupt stockbroker who fucks over everyone he knows in the name of the almighty dollar. One night he attends a party, does one too many Quaaludes, and finds himself in a coma. Stuck in a perpetual dream state, Jordan is forced to live an entirely different life as a normal middle-class guy with a middle-class, normal, boring life just trying to make ends meet. He's employed as a dock worker and has to do intense manual labor that he's not accustomed to for a strict, overbearing boss portrayed by Robert Englund. He's married to his high school sweetheart, also portrayed by Robert Englund in drag, who's become a miserable pill popper and barely gets out of bed. Their children are also played by CG shortened Robert Englunds.
It'd be better if he was on his knees with the shoes on his knees.
Living in this middle-class hell is only the beginning, though. When an unscrupulous loan agent, also played by Robert Englund, but with a goatee, runs off with Jordan's money and his house is forced into foreclosure, Jordan's reality cracks and begins to fall apart as demons and other hellish monstrosities replace his wife and children. He's ultimately pursued by the one and only Springwood slasher himself, Freddy Krueger. Is Jordan the last son of Springwood, or is this all a feverish dream guided by his own guilty conscience? Will Jordan wake from his coma and turn a new leaf, or will Freddy finish him off?
That's awesome. I like all the Robert Englunds. That's what really delivers.
Yeah.
You know what that movie needs? One more Robert Englund. He should play every character.
Except for DiCaprio's character.
Even
He should
DiCaprio.
even play DiCaprio.
And then he should also play people like bystanders in the background.
It's the ultimate Robert Englund movie.
Okay. My next one, we're going to have to come up with a title together on this one.
All right.
Because I could not come up with anything that was better than My Candyman.
Okay.
A combination of My Girl and Candyman. After Macaulay Culkin is killed by a horde of African bees, he is he is risen when his childhood girlfriend mortician turned necromancer revives him. Since the bees are African, he dons blackface and a hook for a hand. So he paints up with the blackface, extremely offensive.
Right.
And especially, Macaulay Culkin.
Right, because he's real white.
Yeah, and he's like real privileged. He was rich as a little kid.
Yeah.
So this movie's going to be heavily protested. He has a hook for a hand and seeks revenge on the bullies he dealt with in school and on a local beekeeper and on Dan Aykroyd.
Of course.
Starring Macaulay Culkin, Anna Klumsky, Dan Aykroyd, and Tony Todd as the beekeeper. And directed by Clive Barker.
He's
My
busy this time.
Candyman.
My Candyman's pretty. That's a fitting title.
Yeah, My Girl and Candyman.
Yeah.
And since the bees are African killer bees, when they bite him, he turns black too, and he becomes the Candyman.
Because that's how black people are made. Like a black person bites a white person, and then you turn into a black person.
When you get stung by a bee.
Black bites matter.
Black bites. Macaulay Culkin needs the work, first of all.
Yeah.
We're gonna use Macaulay Culkin in his current age and state. He looks like a crack addict, right? But we're gonna not reference that he's old, kind of like Dewey Cox. He's just gonna play a little kid still,
right?
And he will be on his knees with the shoes on his knees as he runs off the pier.
Nice. All right, my number one is directed by whoever the fuck directed Sharknado.
Oh God!
And it's called AVP Jurassic. A transport ship full of predators lands in the now abandoned Jurassic Park island for another chance to hunt dinosaurs, but they find that all of the herbivores have been killed off and all that's left are hyper-evolved super carnivores that feed on each other. At the same time, a passenger plane crashes on the other side of the island and the few survivors must make their way to the old Jurassic Park buildings in the hopes of finding a radio to call for help. Soon they're forced into the tunnels beneath the island by the battling predators and dinosaurs. There they discover that Jurassic Park was actually a front for the Weyland-Yutani Corporation. Publicly, they were cloning dinosaurs for a theme park, but secretly they were cloning alien xenomorphs for military purposes.
Underneath.
The unwitting humans release a facehugger, which implants eggs into a velociraptor, which eventually gives birth through its chest to the Queen Velocimorph.
I like it.
The stakes have never been this high the human predators must join forces to fight for their lives against alien dinosaur hybrids with motherfucking acid for blood.
That's awesome.
That's the best movie ever made.
And directed by the people who made Sharknado.
Whoever the fuck that was.
You know what? That does sound like the best movie ever made, but I'll up the ante a little.
Okay.
Because my movie, my number one, is a combination of The Passion of the Christ and Return of the Living Dead. After being brutally tortured, Jesus rises again when his remains are transported to a medical supply warehouse. When Trioxin leaks, he rises and leads his army of split dogs to come for revenge. Coming this Easter, he's back, and he's pissed. Starring Roman Reigns as Zombie Jesus. With appearances by Leanna Quigley and the dude who played Tommy Jarvis.
Whoever that is.
You know, the guy who played Tommy Jarvis, and he's also in Return of the Living Dead. And that old guy died, so he can't be in it.
Right.
So we'll CGI him in there.
Yeah.
And now adding Robert Englund. Directed by Brian Yuzna.
Nice. What's the title for that one?
Return of the Living Christ.
That's awesome.
You got any honorable mentions?
No, that was my brain power for the week, man.
I had some more ideas. I did not elaborate, so I got a couple honorable mentions.
All right.
Let's simultaneously cut up with the plot for these movies, the names, everything together.
Okay.
So, Revenge of the Nerds and I Spit on Your Grave. A dork frat is raped by jocks.
Nerds!
It's a combination of Deliverance, too. Yeah. I'm going to make you squeal like a nerd. What do you think about that?
I spit on your frat house.
I spit on your nerds. Harry and the Hendersons and Dexter. Because John Lithgow was the killer in one of the seasons of Dexter.
Right.
And he's also the dad in Harry and the Hendersons. So instead of making him to be the Sasquatch is friendly, but if they teach him to be a cold-blooded killer.
Yeah, I read a great book by Deadite Press recently called Bigfoot Crank Stomp.
Oh yeah, you read that?
About these crank dealers who capture Bigfoot and keep him in the basement under their crank shack.
Yeah.
And feed him crank just to see what happens.
Yeah.
And he goes crazy on this murder and sex rampage.
That's awesome. I need to read that. I've been looking at getting that for a while. I need to borrow it after you're done.
Yeah.
So what would we call Harry and the Lithgow? What would we call that one?
I don't know.
starring Robert Englund as Harry, starring Doug Jones as Harry, and Robert Englund with John Lithgow's CGI face superimposed on his body. So he does the physical acting, Robert Englund, but John Lithgow's face is superimposed on him. What would we call that one?
I don't know.
Harry and the Lithgows, I guess. That's all. If that's all we got. So another one, National Lampoon's Vacation, combined with Hostel. A white bread American family heads to Slovakian theme park where people auction them off to be killed.
National Lampoon's Slovakian Vacation.
Yeah, that's the best name ever.
Chasing Chevy.
Chasing Chevy? That's even better. Chevy Chase needs to work.
Yeah.
Howard the Duck and Poultry Guys, Night of the Chicken Dead.
That's a great movie. It's a great movie by itself.
I know, combined with Howard the Duck.
Yeah.
Night of the Mallard, what would you call that?
Night of the Mallard. after failing in his career as a music agent and in his interspecies relationship with the human chick, Howard commits suicide and then gets brought back to life.
Also by Anna Klumsky, the necromancer who brought back the
right. She's bored.
This is a sequel to My Candyman. Also directed by the guy who made Sharknado.
Yeah.
The Sandlot and Cujo. The dog really is angry this time. Hercules, the dog from Sandlot.
Yeah,
it's a rabbit. He wants to kill these little fuckers for hitting balls into his yard. And then that old black guy, isn't that the guy who voiced Darth Vader?
Yeah, James Earl Jones,
yeah. That old black guy teaches him to kill.
I bite your balls.
I bite your balls. That's a great name. And my last honorable mention, Rob Schneider.
That's just the movie. Rob
plays
Schneider.
Deuce Bigelow, Frankenhooker. After a pack of man-whores explode, a scientist sews them back together to get the best Frankenhooker with Rob Schneider's head. And the hilarity ensues.
Deuce Bigelow, Undead Gigolo.
Deuce Bigelow, Undead Gigolo.
That's great.
That's the best ever. So, you've heard about our Patreon. Something you can do for $0.
0 dimes.
Something we want you to be a part of is our Facebook group, Postmortem Show Horror Movie Podcast.
That's right. You can get on Facebook, look that up, and interact directly with JD and myself. Tell us what you like, tell us what you don't like, share your stupid memes, get shit talked by me, just don't post racist shit.
Other than different pictures of H.P. Lovecraft.
That's the kind of racist shit that's okay to post. Look up the Facebook group, Postmortem Show Horror Movie Podcast. Join us online. One of us.
Off topic! Off topic!
Alright, patrons. Broadcasting Undead from the B Ward, this is Postmortem Off Topic. I'm Dom.
And I'm JD.
And today we are going to be talking about one of my favorite historical figures, the one and only Jack Parsons.
I don't even know who Jack Parsons is.
I'm gonna learn you.
Isn't that Jack Parsons' project?
Yeah, that's him. He's the guy. Jack Parsons was an American scientist who developed jet-assisted takeoff and the rocket fuel that we still use today, and also a devotee of Aleister Crowley.
Okay, so listeners, we're on the same path right now. If you don't know who this is, get on my level. Get on my level, bro. You pause this podcast, you chug about, 6 or 7 beers.
Yeah.
And then prepare to
hit yourself in the head with a folding chair
give
over a
yourself
period
a
of
concussion
years.
just so you can get give yourself mini concussions. And then let's sit down together.
Give yourself 1 mini concussion a month for 6 years.
So I've got 3 books that I use as my primary reference in these, and I recommend that if you are a reader that you read all 3 of these because they're all excellent books. The first one is called Sex and Rockets, The Occult World of Jack Parsons by John Carter. It's basically the most concise biography of Jack Parsons that's around. Strange Angel, The Otherworldly Life of Rocket Scientist John Whiteside Parsons by George Pendle. This one's a little bit more formally written. Sex and Rockets is more entertaining, where this one's more like a historical thing. And then Barefaced Messiah, The True Story of L. Ron Hubbard by Russell Miller, because there's some crossover in the paths of Jack Parsons and L. Ron Hubbard.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Is he a Scientologist?
No, he gets fucked by L. Ron Hubbard. Not literally fucked, but fucked.
Fuck you, L. Ron Hubbard.
And I actually learned about Jack Parsons through Barefaced Messiah initially, and then decided to research him, and kind of fell in love with the guy. He's a real cool dude. Not a perfect guy.
Is he your Dukes?
Is he your Dukes? He may be my Dukes.
Wow.
Yeah. So Jack Parsons was born Marvel Whiteside Parsons on October 2nd, 1914 in Los Angeles, California. He was named after his father, but his parents divorced soon after his birth due to his father's infidelity, and his mom started calling him John instead, and then eventually Jack. Parsons grew up wealthy, but had few friends due to his domineering and overprotective mother. He spent most of his days entertaining himself with fantasy and science fiction books and magazines. He performed poorly in school, likely due to undiagnosed dyslexia, but he developed his own interest in rocketry and began creating his own gunpowder-based model rockets as early as age 12. In his formative years, he developed a lifelong friendship with a guy named Edward Foreman, who shared his interest in rockets and also protected him from bullies. In high school, he was kicked out of public school for poor grades and sent to a military academy in San Diego, but was promptly expelled for blowing up a bathroom.
Yeah! Fuck your military bathroom.
Punk rock! After spending a year in Europe with his mother, Jack studied at a private school in Southern California with an unconventional teaching method, and he flourished there, especially in the field of chemistry. He also edited the school's newspaper and won an award for literary excellence. And while in high school, he took a part-time job at the Hercules Powder Company in the Los Angeles area.
Hercules Powder?
Yeah.
That sounds like a combination of cocaine and
steroids.
Steroids, yeah. Hercules Powder.
That is officially what that is.
Hercules. This episode is called Hercules Powder, the Jack Parsons story.
This episode is brought to you by Hercules Powder. Go all Super Saiyan.
Brought to you by Ultimate Warrior promos.
He was on some Hercules Powder. The Hercules Powder Company made like blasting powder, and that's where he learned even more about explosives and rocket propulsion.
Strap on the rocket.
Load the spaceship with the Hercules Powder. Oh, Kogan. After graduating... After graduating high school, Parsons enrolled at Pasadena Junior College. Unfortunately, the Great Depression hit the wealthy Parsons family hard, especially after the death of Jack's grandfather, and he was forced to drop out because he was unable to pay for his tuition. Instead, he took a full-time job at Hercules Powder and was sent to work in the manufacturing plant in the Bay Area. I can't say it without laughing now. I think it's the last time I say this in this. But while working at the manufacturing plant there, he began to suffer...
That's my porn name, Hercules Powder.
Hercules Powder? It's like an albino porn star. He began suffering horrible headaches due to constant exposure to nitroglycerin. So despite receiving a relatively high salary for the time, the headaches forced him out of the job, and he had to move back to Southern California.
So he was doing whippets the entire time he was working there?
Yeah.
Have you ever done a whippet?
I've done tons of whippets. Hippie crack.
It's like... I remember when I did it when I was probably like 18 years old. And we just did it in the car real quick. And then there was this little fucking like Volkswagen Bug, like the old style one, going. But for me, it sounded like it was like a giant truck or something.
Yeah.
And going in stages.
Yep. A friend of mine actually rigged up a device to where you didn't need the balloon. It went like through a tube and through a warming system and into a gas mask.
What about the cracker things?
No, you didn't need that either because of the way he
That's what it was.
He rigged it up on like a whipping cream maker. And then like you just basically fucking mainline that shit straight into your lungs and it would make you schizophrenic.
Yeah. Good times.
Yeah. That's nitrous oxide, though. Nitroglycerin is the explosive shit.
Oh.
Yeah. But, I'll take any chance I get to talk about nitrous oxide.
Unnecessary tangents.
Yeah.
Like only I can deliver.
That's right. So upon moving back to Southern California, Parsons and his buddy Ed Foreman befriended a PhD student named Frank Molina and applied for funding from Caltech University to build a liquid-fueled rocket motor with their ultimate goal of developing rockets for space exploration. Molina's doctoral advisor, Theodore von Karman, who was a very influential rocket scientist at the time, saw promise in their proposal and agreed to allow them to operate under the auspices of the university's Guggenheim Aeronautical Laboratory, also known as GALCIT. There, they gained access to Caltech's specialized equipment. They would work with Parsons as the chemist, Foreman as the machinist, and Molina as the technical theoretician. Parsons lacked the technical training that Molina had, but was very creative and kept the group focused on the project. So Molina traded and taught Parsons about technical chemistry, while Parsons and Foreman taught him about practical rocketry. During this time, Parsons began to develop socialist and pacifist values and a penchant for smoking weed. He also began dating a woman named Helen Northrup and married her in 1935. They bought a small house in Pasadena, and Jack got a job at the Halifax Powder Company.
Is it Northrop Grumman?
Yeah. Northrop Grumman?
Yeah, that's like a major military... Like, they have them on the military bases.
Really?
Stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you know more about than me.
Yeah, and it is like a... It is something to do with like rockets and and airplanes and shit.
Yeah, well, and I'll be going into that a little bit more because he was really influential in making things like
that.
See,
I can contribute to these logical discussions.
Yeah. Unfortunately, due to the ongoing Great Depression, von Karman was unable to continue to fund Caltech's rocket research, so Jack had to spend most of his personal money to keep the GALCIT project alive. At one point, he even pawned his wife's engagement ring and asked her family for loans. Understandably, Helen was not happy about this, but getting funds for rocket research was difficult at the time because the general consensus among the scientific community was that space rockets were things of science fiction. The issue was compounded by the fact that the first 4 rocket tests ended in disaster, often with large, massive, dangerous explosions. The 5th test, however, was successful, and in 1937 they were allowed to conduct tests on Caltech's campus instead of the neighboring canyons. Over the next 2 years, more students joined the team, and they came to be known as the Suicide Squad due to the dangerous nature of their work, which would often explode and damage buildings at Caltech.
And they would also dress up like Harley Quinn.
Yeah, every single one of them. Yeah. Because Harley Quinn was the only character in Suicide Squad, really.
I never saw it.
No, yeah, she was the only character. If you ask,
And like a tattooed Joker. Right?
Yeah, a terrible Joker, yeah. Unfortunately, internal differences, including Jack's refusal to join the Communist Party, led to the rapid dissolution of the group, leaving only the 3 original members. In 1938, Parsons gained media attention when he appeared as an expert explosive witness at the trial of Captain Earl Kynette, the head of the Police Intelligence Bureau in Los Angeles, who was accused of conspiring to set a car bomb in the attempted murder of a private investigator named Harry Raymond, a former LAPD detective who was fired for whistleblowing against police corruption. When Kynette was convicted, largely on Parsons' testimony, which included forensic reconstruction of the car bomb, Jack's identity as an expert scientist in the public eye was established despite his lack of a university education. All of this stuff is going to become important later on. But here's the real meat of it. In 1939, Jack Parsons developed an interest in the occult and began attending the Church of Thelema in Hollywood, an offshoot of Aleister Crowley's Ordo Templi Orientis, or OTO.
Mr. Crowley!
He met the church's head, Wilfred Talbot Smith, and began a lifelong, occasionally contentious friendship with him. Parsons instantly recognized a correlation between thelemic magic and quantum physics, and he began to correspond directly with Crowley, and the two of them sparked a strange friendship.
Crowley likes to launch rockets up your ass.
Yeah, he does. He's all about that. And this is like old Crowley, in the later stages of his life.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so he was real weird then.
Yeah.
Crowley respected Parsons' scientific mind, but also treated him as a bit of a joke due to Parsons' overexuberance and tendency to misinterpret things in ways that Crowley found comical. Basically, he was the guy that, Crowley was like, this guy's important, and I want to teach him, but every time he fucks up, I'm going to mercilessly make fun of him. He was basically Crowley's David. the way we teach your son.
Mr. Crowley.
Mr. David! Still, Crowley described Parsons as a possible successor to himself, and in his correspondence to other members of the OTO, he went as far to say that Parsons is, quote, the most valued member of the whole order with no exception. Meanwhile, the Galset team was having a good deal of success with their rocket projects, which they had retitled Jet Propulsion in order to avoid the sci-fi stigma attached to space rocketry. They were able to secure a research grant from the U.S. military, who was interested in jet propulsion as a means of getting aircraft off the ground when there were short runways, and they began to research a concept known as jet-assisted takeoff, and became the first ever government-funded and sanctioned rocket research group. So, what you mentioned about Northrop Grumman, these guys kind of laid the groundwork for things like that to be possible.
Yeah, it can't be a coincidence while you're talking about like aerodynamics and stuff like that, and the last name of the girl that you were bringing up.
Oh yeah,
yeah, it's Northrop. So yeah, it's got to be an offshoot of this story.
Yeah, there's a little bit of serendipity there. Though successful in their experimentations, even going as far as getting the cover story of a 1940 edition of Popular Mechanics magazines, the Galset team was ostracized by other Caltech scientists who grew increasingly irritated by their accidents, noise pollution, and the fact that they kept damaging the damn buildings. So they were forced to relocate their experiments to Arroyo Seco outside of Pasadena, at a site with unventilated corrugated iron sheds that served as their research facilities and administrative offices. This project was considered of the utmost security, and all workers had to be cleared by the FBI before joining the project. By 1942, the Galset team had decided that liquid fuel would be safer than solid-state fuel, and the fact that their efforts to create something worked spurred more interest as America entered World War II. On one hand, they realized that if they did not come up with something soon, they could be drafted to fight, and on the other hand, they knew that using their scientific minds to fight the Nazis was a moral imperative to the group. So doubling down on their efforts, Parsons, Foreman, and Molina successfully developed liquid rocket fuel that was much safer than any previous fuel, and Molina wrote in a letter to his parents, "We now have something that works, and we should be able to help give the fascists hell."
Hell yeah.
So far, Jack Parsons is a rocket expert with no university training. He's an occultist, and he fights Nazis.
Yeah, he sounds pretty cool.
Yeah. So...
And he's got that good Hercules powder.
Yeah, he's got the Hercules powder.
He's got that good Hercules powder that you need.
That's how he kept going. Which actually isn't far off.
How else could you be an occultist and a rocket?
I was going to say, it's not far off from the truth, as we're about to see. During this time, partially encouraged to do so by the sexually permissive attitudes of the OTO, Parsons began an affair with his wife's younger sister, Sarah, and while Helen was away on a trip. When she returned, Sarah asserted that she was now Parsons' wife, and Parsons admitted that he was more attracted to the younger sister than to the woman he had married. And in return, Helen sought comfort in the arms of the Thelemic Church's leader, Wilford Talbot Smith, whom she remained with for the rest of her life. Jack and Helen split amicably, and the two couples remained friends, even going so far as to move into a communal mansion together in Pasadena, where they lived
with her sister?
Yeah, with him with her sister, and her with his friend, and they just kind of like moved into this big old mansion with all of these other magic practitioners, and we're like, oh no, it's cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very mature about
it.
Yeah. Very new age thinking.
Yeah, for sure. This house became the home of the Thelemic Agape Lodge. Here, Parsons went all in on Thelema, donating most of his salary from rocket research to the OTO, financially supporting Aleister Crowley in London, and actively recruiting new members to the organization. Parsons began overseeing the communal aspects of the house, becoming a de facto leader in the community, and often hosted rituals, parties, orgies, and conferences in the mansion. His commitment to the order had some impact on his scientific work, though, as he began to show up late to work, hungover, and sleep-deprived, and even began conducting occult invocations to aid in successes before his rocket tests at the Galset facility.
He's painting pentagrams on the floor,
straight
lighting
up,
candles and
going
stuff.
out there and invoking Pan, saying, make this shit work.
That's awesome.
Parsons had become a habitual user of cocaine, amphetamines, mescaline, peyote, and opiates, often relying on...
If you're a habitual user of peyote,
yeah.
And how could he get these rockets to work? Or maybe that's the reason he could.
That's the reason he could, totally. He tapped into something there. He would often rely on the infamous pattern of uppers in the morning and downers in the evening to maintain his energy while living the double life of scientist by day and occultist by night.
Taihitu.
Taihitu?
The duality of man.
Oh.
The yin and the yang.
Yeah.
Uppers and down.
Uppers and down.
Speedball. They used to call him Speedball Parsons.
You sort of channeled Matthew McConaughey there for a minute. All right. So while some of his co-workers were amused and even encouraged Parsons' eccentricities, other scientists began to resent his extracurricular activities and worried that he'd become a liability to their credibility. The Agape Lodge came under some investigation by both the Pasadena Police Department and the FBI after allegations of a black magic cult involved in sexual orgies came to their attention. One complainant was a 16-year-old boy who said that he was raped by lodge members, and neighbors complained of a ritual involving a naked pregnant woman jumping through fire. However, Parsons explained that the lodge was simply an
They're
organization.
just trying to heat it up so it'll come out quicker.
Exactly.
You got a bun in the oven, you got to turn up the heat.
Turn up the heat on that bun, that's right. Parsons explained to the FBI that the lodge was an organization dedicated to religious and philosophical speculation, and ultimately neither agency found evidence of actual illegal activity and came to the conclusion that the lodge was not a threat to national security. Aleister Crowley and the OTO leader Carl Germer had an eventual falling out with Wilford Talbot Smith and wanted to remove him as head of the Agape Lodge. Both Jack and his ex-wife, now Wilford's wife, Helen, wrote letters trying to save Smith's position, but eventually he was ordered to step down, and Parsons was appointed as head of the lodge. Parsons' appointment was controversial because he was still a relatively new member to the order, and his drug use and penchant for excessive polyandry was considered a little overboard. But he was a charismatic speaker and an active supporter of the organization in effort, time, and money, so his position was secure, especially with Crowley's backing. Smith and Helen soon had a child and stepped away from the OTO, moved out of the mansion, leaving it entirely under Parsons' care. At the height of World War II, the United States became aware that Nazi Germany had developed the V-2 rocket, which renewed military attention on American rocket research. They gave the Galset team a $3 million grant, which is a lot of money back then, to develop rocket-based weapons, and the group was expanded and renamed Jet Propulsion Laboratory, with JPL, which still exists today. At this time, though, the rest of the team turned on Parsons and Foreman, viewing their occult activities as disreputable, and the two were ousted from the company with sizable exit packages. And with this money, Parsons bought the mansion that housed the Agape Lodge commune, and the place came to be known as the Parsonage. Parsons continued to hold OTO activities at the Parsonage, but also began renting rooms to non-Thelemites. Chiefly scientists, artists, and writers. Parsonage resident Alva Rogers recalled in a 1962 article for an occult magazine that the ads placed in the local paper, Jack specified that only bohemians, artists, music, atheists, anarchists, or other exotic types need to apply for rooms. Anyone else would be unceremoniously rejected. Science fiction writer, eventual cult leader, and all-around dirtbag L. Ron Hubbard soon moved into the Parsonage. Yep.
Fuck you, L. Ron Hubbard.
Yep. He ingratiated himself to Parsons, and they became fast friends. Parsons and Sarah were in an open relationship, and she was also quite taken with Hubbard. Parsons had a long history of taking advantage of the open relationship, but this was really the first time Sarah had, and it was also the first time he'd ever felt threatened within the relationship. So, despite attempting to repress these feelings, he became intensely jealous, and eventually he said, "You know what, Sarah, you go be with Hubbard. Fuck you, I don't want you anyway." And then he spent a lot of his time drinking and doing drugs and began to devote his energies to conducting black magic in an attempt to invoke some kind of spirit or demon. Some of these rituals were an attempt to use occult means to find a perfect partner, while others were simply for financial gain. Parsons began to report paranormal...
Wait, is that girl the one that started the first wife of L. Ron Hubbard?
Second.
Second.
Sarah was the one he married while he was still married to his first wife.
Okay, what the fuck?
Yeah.
That's a weird tie-in.
Yeah. It gets weirder. Parsons soon reported paranormal events in the house resulting from the rituals, including poltergeist activity, sightings of orbs and ghostly apparitions, and disembodied voices. However, some people at the house theorized that it was just Hubbard and Sarah fucking with him. Though one ritual allegedly brought...
I'm gonna put speakers in his walls.
Exactly. And we're gonna...
He's gonna think there's ghosts in there.
One ritual, though, allegedly brought screaming banshees to the windows of the parsonage that several people corroborated that they witnessed this. In December of 1945, Parsons undertook a magical ritual known as the Babylon Working, an attempt to bring the Thelemite goddess Babylon to Earth. He allowed Hubbard to take part in the ritual as his scribe, and the final ritual took place in the Mojave Desert in late February 1946.
It's too hot up here for someone of my stature.
Are you jerking off there, Jack? Are you
L. Ron
jerking off
Hubbard,
in that pentagram?
I always think of L. Ron Hubbard, based on his photographs and stuff like that, and his speeches and stuff like that. I kind of imagine him more like a Larry Flint kind of voice. Oh, it's hot. I don't like it.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate, actually. Especially toward the end of his life, where he was all fucking crazy on speed. So upon returning to the parsonage, an artist named Marjorie Cameron came to visit. Believing her to be the elemental woman and manifestation of Babylon that he had invoked, Parsons immediately began performing sex magic rituals with her, who acted as his Scarlet Woman while Hubbard continued to participate as the scribe. Parsons and Hubbard aimed to magically create a moonchild based on the Aleister Crowley ritual who would become the Thelemic Messiah. Crowley was not happy with this and regarded it as an idiotic pursuit. However, after about a year performing rituals, Parsons believed that the Babylon working was accomplished. He sold the parsonage under the condition that he and Cameron could continue to live in the coach house and stepped down as leader of the Agape Lodge. At this point, Parsons, Hubbard, and Sarah co-founded a company called Allied Enterprises, into which Parsons invested his entire life savings of approximately $30,000. Hubbard suggested that they travel to Miami to purchase 3 yachts, which they would sail through the Panama Canal to the West Coast, where they could sell them for a profit.
That was with okay,
Yeah.
I know that whole story.
Yeah. Parsons agreed to this, though many of his friends advised against it, including Aleister Crowley. The whole plan was a giant scam on Hubbard's part, and he and Sarah actually planned to take the money and go on a world cruise.
Would you like to buy a yacht? let's cruise around the world. We're gonna see the world.
So Hubbard and Sarah secretly left for Miami without Parsons, taking what remained of his money, approximately $10,000. Parsons flew to Miami and placed a temporary injunction and restraining order on them, but Hubbard had already purchased 3 of the yachts, sold 2, and attempted to escape on the remaining one. When he received word of this, Parsons went back to his hotel and performed a ritual invoking Bartzabel.
Eat my shorts.
Yeah, that's what he said. He was a vengeful spirit. Less than a day later, Hubbard and Sarah's boat was caught in a squall and forced to return to port, where Hubbard was served with papers dissolving Allied Enterprises and subpoenaing him to court. The case was eventually settled out of court, though, with Hubbard agreeing to reimburse Parsons for the stolen money. Parsons was discouraged from taking further action by Sarah, who threatened to report him for statutory rape because their relationship began when she was 17. In the end, Parsons only ended up getting back $2,900 of the $10,000 that Hubbard owed him. Hubbard was still married to his previous wife, but bigamously married Sarah and went on to found Dianetics and Scientology. Later, when Hubbard's involvement in the OTO was exposed in a 1969 edition of the Sunday Times, Hubbard released a statement that he had been sent as an undercover agent by the U.S. Navy to intercept and destroy Parsons' black magic cult and save Sarah from its influence. And, steal his money and buy boats.
Yeah.
What a fucking dirtbag.
Oh, I need to buy at least 3 boats.
So, depressed and disillusioned by all of this, Parsons left the OTO upon his return to California, stating in his resignation letter to Crowley that he did not believe that enlightenment could be achieved within the confines of an autocratic organization. He took a job with North American Aviation in Inglewood, where he worked on the Navajo missile program, and moved into a house in Manhattan Beach with Marjorie Cameron, where he instructed her privately on occult magic. At the emergence of the Cold War and the subsequent Red Scare, Parsons was investigated by the Congressional House Un-American Activities Committee. The FBI stripped Parsons of his clearance because of his subversive character, including his involvement in and advocacy of sexual perversion in the OTO. Declassified FBI documentation also revealed that the FBI's primary concern was Parsons' former connection to Marxists at Caltech and his membership in the also subversive American Civil Liberties Union.
Let the man put his dick where he wants to put his dick.
Yeah, I mean, he wanted to put his dick places. He didn't join the Communist Party, and he supported the ACLU. That's fucking civil rights. Nope, we're going to take away your clearance. Fuck the FBI. Fuck fucking, Hoover's FBI. The guy was a dirtbag.
Full of chains and lingerie.
Yep. However, when they interviewed Parson, he denied communist sympathies, stated that the Thelemic ethos was one of individualism and was not something that would cooperate with communism, and inform them of Frank Molina's actual involvement in the communist cell at Caltech. So the guy who took his company out from underneath him ended up getting reported as a communist, which was true, and he got his security clearance pulled too. Having trouble finding work after these events, Parsons resorted to bootlegging nitroglycerin for money and managed to earn wages as a car mechanic, a manual laborer at gas stations, a hospital orderly. Relations between him and Cameron became strained, however, and they agreed on a temporary separation. Unable to pursue his scientific career, Parsons decided to return to occultism, performing sex magic rituals with prostitutes. He focused on performing the Crossing of the Abyss ritual to merge with the universal consciousness, as understood in Thelemic mysticism. Parsons recounted having an out-of-body experience invoked by Babylon, who astrally transported him to the biblical city of Chorazin, an experience he referred to as the Black Pilgrimage. Parsons then performed the Oath of the Abyss and the Oath of the Antichrist rituals, with Wilford Talbot Smith as his scribe and witness. In these oaths, Parsons professed to embody the Antichrist. He then set about writing an autobiography entitled Analysis by a Master of the Temple, an occult text entitled The Book of the Antichrist, and an essay on his individualist philosophy and politics entitled Freedom is a Two-Edged Sword. None of these books were published in his lifetime, but were published after his death. Parsons testified to a closed federal court that the moral philosophy of Thelema was both anti-fascist and anti-communist, emphasizing his belief in individualism. This, along with references from his scientific colleagues, resulted in his security clearance eventually being reinstated by the Industrial Employment Review Board, which ruled that there was insufficient evidence that he had ever had any communist sympathies. This allowed Parsons to obtain a contract designing and constructing a chemical plant for Hughes Aircraft in Culver City, California. In November of 1950, the Red Scare intensified. Parsons decided to migrate to Israel after being offered a job in the government's rocket program, but a Hughes secretary, whom Parsons had asked to type up a portfolio of technical documents, reported him to the FBI once again. She accused him of espionage and attempted theft of classified company documents. The FBI investigated the complaint and were suspicious that Parsons was spying for the Israeli government. Parsons denied the allegations when interrogated, insisted that his intentions were peaceful and that he just suffered an error of judgment in procuring the documents. Some of Parsons' scientific colleagues again rallied to his defense, and in October of 1951, the U.S. Attorney decided that because the contents of the reports did not constitute actual state secrets, Parsons was not in fact a spy for Israel. At this point, Parsons had had enough of politics and founded the Parsons Chemical Manufacturing Company, which was based in North Hollywood. And
gotta make that good Hercules powder.
That's right, making his own Hercules powder. And the focus of this company was creating pyrotechnics and explosives, such as fog effects and imitation gunshot wounds for the film industry. He reconciled with Marjorie Cameron, and they resumed their relationship, and he converted the large first-floor laundry room in their home to a private laboratory. Parsons and Cameron then decided to go to Mexico for a few months. But on June 17, 1952, a day before their planned departure, Parsons received a rush order for explosives for a film set and began to work in his in-home laboratory. An explosion destroyed the lower part of the building, during which Parsons sustained mortal wounds. His right forearm was blown off, his legs and left arm were broken, and a hole was torn in the right side of his face. Despite these critical injuries, Parsons was found conscious at the scene and rushed to Huntington Memorial Hospital, where he was declared dead about 37 minutes after the explosion, and was only 37 years old at the time. Pasadena Police Department concluded that Parsons had been mixing fulminate of mercury in a coffee can when he dropped it on the floor, causing the initial explosion, which worsened when it came into contact with other chemicals in the room. Some of Parsons' colleagues rejected this explanation, saying that he was very attentive to safety. Another chemical engineer...
It was L. Ron Hubbard.
It was.
Scientology.
Scientology did it. One chemical engineer who performed his own investigation, named George Santamers, insisted that the explosion must have come from beneath the floorboards, implying an organized plot to kill Parsons.
Yeah, Tom Cruise snuck in there in the fucking night.
He traveled time.
No, he was probably alive.
1937? Right? Nah.
Oh, I thought you said 1950.
1952. Oh, yeah, 1952.
Yeah,
he might have been.
I guess maybe he'd be like one.
Yeah,
he crawled over there.
He got a message. He got a message from Xenu before, just as a baby, crawled over there and planted a bomb.
No, it was L. Ron Hubbard himself. I got to crawl in these ducks.
I gotta kill Parsons.
Parsons, thing is to die.
Wilford Talbot Smith suggested that Parsons' death had been a suicide, stating that he suffered from depression for some time. But Marjorie Cameron, his wife, was convinced that Parsons had been murdered, likely by police officers seeking vengeance for his role in the conviction of Earl Kynette. One of Cameron's friends, artist Renata Dirks, later stated her belief that Parsons had died in an occult ritual designed to create a homunculus. His death has never been definitively explained. So why do we still talk about Jack Parsons? First of all, he was responsible for developing the rocket fuel and engines that we use to this day to travel around the world on jet airplanes and even off of the planet in spacecrafts at speeds that were completely unimaginable to people before his times. More than that, though, we live in a time where the realms of science and the supernatural are often considered mutually exclusive. Parsons walked the line between both worlds, living the old Arthur C. Clarke adage that magic is just science we don't understand yet. Parsons was a thinker ahead of his time, a visionary who never let anyone get in the way of him exploring realms that were considered forbidden by polite society. After all, what is occultism but a study of knowledge that the powers don't want common people to know about, which is usually the most powerful knowledge a person can have? And what can we learn from Jack Parsons' life? Jack was a man of extremes who went 100% all in on everything that he did. While this was an admirable trait that allowed him to accomplish more in 37 years of his life than some people do in double that time frame, Jack often wore himself too thin and depleted not only his own resources, but the resources of those around him in his pursuits. He trusted too easily at times and suffered bitter consequences because of it. If there's anything that can be learned from Jack Parsons' life, it's that destroying yourself in the pursuit of any goal ultimately just leads you to being destroyed. And a whole bunch of half-completed objectives. Sometimes it's better to sit back and take in what's going on around you as opposed to losing yourself to all of your projects all the time. And that is the life and death of Jack Parsons.
And what a life.
Yeah, 37 years old as I am right now. And he invented jet-assisted takeoff, summoned the Antichrist, got fucked over by L. Ron Hubbard, got invested by the FBI no less than 3 times.
Married his wife's sister. Had that sister leave him for L. Ron Hubbard, and then married someone who was sent to him by a Thelemic goddess to be his final wife.
That's a lot more in 37 years than most men do in several lifetimes.
Yeah, for sure.
So, Jack Parsons.
Yep.
This beer's to you.
That's right. And
cheers.
Apparently a biopic is being made of him, and they are considering Leonardo DiCaprio to play the role of Jack Parsons.
Does he look like him?
A little bit. If they dyed his hair black and he had a mustache, he would have the light.
Are we talking in like Vincent Price mustache?
Yes, exactly like a Vincent Price mustache,
like a thin mustache.
Yeah. Jack Parsons.
That's a power move.
Yeah, he had the Vincent Price mustache and like curly, wild black hair. So they would have to style DiCaprio's hair differently, but I think he could pull it off.
So either Hall or Oates, whatever is the appropriate member.
Right. Him, but less gay.
Man-eater!
Oh, here she comes. Oh, here comes Hubbard.
Fuck you, L. Ron Hubbard. And yeah, Jack Parsons. This is a story that I didn't know.
Yeah. It's
and
a story for the ages.
I'm glad it's a story that needs to be told.
Yep.
If only for Hercules powder.
Hercules
If you can
powder.
take nothing else from this conversation, patrons, Hercules powder.
Yeah. It's that cocaine and steroids are the way to go.
When you wake up in the morning and you don't want to get up out of bed, you want to hit that snooze button on your alarm, you know? You're tired of hearing it from your boss, you know? The wife's on your case, you know? Get off the Xbox. Stop playing NHL 18. Those exact words.
Yeah.
And then what do you do? What do you do? Do you hit that snooze button? Or do you seize the day? Seize the day. You reach over to that drawer, you open it. What do you find in there?
Dun, 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 dun.
Hercules powder. As you rub it into your eyeballs, up your nose, and
in your gums,
just all over yourself.
Between your teeth.
You start masturbating furiously with it.
You tickle your uvula
up in
with
your
it.
urethra Franklin.
You just put a funnel right into your urethra and pour the Hercules powder right into your dick.
And some Jack Daniels.
Chase it with some Jack Daniels.
Yeah. In the urethra. Chase it in the funnel.
Damn straight.
and then be like, "Fuck you, Hubbard!" Immediately after that.
And then you go and you take on all of Scientology.
Fight the good fight.
That's right.
You got to fight the good fight.
That is the good fight. So yeah, again, my references on this story were Sex and Rockets, The Occult World of Jack Parsons by John Carter. Highly recommend everyone read that. Strange Angel, The Otherworldly Life of Rocket Scientist John Whiteside Parsons. That one's good too, but it's a little more boring. And Barefaced Messiah, The True Story of L. Ron Hubbard by Russell Miller, which is an excellent, excellent read. And will make
I need
you
to borrow
hate Scientology.
any of those books from you.
Barefaced Messiah you can actually read online for free. No one would publish it because Church of Scientology kept threatening to sue them. So they just put it up there for free.
Okay.
And I think I have Sex and Rockets still. I'll get that one to you.
All right. I'm interested. I'm
All
interested in Jack Parsons.
Yeah.
The Jack Parsons Project.
That's a good band name. Fuck Alan Parsons. It's all about Jack.
The younger brother, always in his shadow.
Yeah. Well, thanks for listening, guys. Thank you for your patronage here on Patreon, and we will be back in another week with some more amazing brain diarrhea for you.
And off topic, creepypasta, Stroke Talks. That's just the start.
Yeah.
All the music, all the stuff we're throwing out there, we're going to create more original content as we think of it, as we develop it. We're going to let you know.
As we get high and are like, this is a good idea.
So,
I guess as H.P. Lovecraft once said, as he grabbed his own penis and picked up that funnel, shoved it in, poured that Hercules powder all the way down into his bladder. He was my motherfucker, boy!
Introducing Jack Parsons Hercules Powder. Our crack team of scientists have developed a special blend of methamphetamines and anabolic steroids that will have you ready for black magic sex orgies and ready to kick L. Ron Hubbard's ass for porking your wife. Let's hear from a satisfied customer.
As the warriors claw and stretch all over the back of the Ultimate Warrior and tell me to do what is rightfully right and wrongfully wrong. Take the Intercontinental Belt back. Take it back to parts unknown. Load the spaceship with the rocket fuel. Load it with the warriors, because after SummerSlam, the belt will be mine!
Jack Parsons Hercules Powder. Available now at all Biff Mart locations. Shop smart. Shop Biff Mart.
Hi, thanks for listening to the Postmortem Podcast. If you want to support us, go to our website at www.postmortemshow.com and click the Amazon link.
By clicking on the Amazon banner, Amazon will give a small percentage of the purchase price of your item back to the Postmortem Podcast at no additional cost to you. That's right. Doesn't cost you any money, we get money. You want us to keep doing this? You want more Doug Jones talk? You want more dick and fart talk? I don't care. We're going to do it.
Fund our filthy, filthy habits.
Yes, and they are many and they are fast.
And most of them aren't legal.
Yes. Click the banner. Just do it.
Come on, don't be a dick. Give us money.
Hey, it's a creepypasta. That's a spicy horror meatball.
The Decision by Jason Turner. After 15 years, I lost my job when I was 33 years old. I'd been with the company since I was 18. It wasn't my fault. The owner of my company was in his late 80s, so he decided to sell to a bigger corporation, and they brought in their own management team. Lost the only job I'd ever known, the only thing that I was really good at. The worst part was that the day the company closed in escrow, I closed on the purchase of my first home. My management had assured me that I would be employed after the sale, but the new owner had other ideas. I finally owned a home, but my savings ran dry quick after my last 2 weeks' paycheck. I tried to do Uber and sell my record collection to make ends meet, but I was 2 months behind on the mortgage and in danger of my house going into foreclosure. I had some job interviews, but it looked like I would end up working at the Circle K or something. I was going to lose it all. I was sitting on the couch Googling job openings in my area when the doorbell rang. I looked out of the peephole to see a man in a tailored suit and a pork pie hat smiling back at me. Did this dude not see the no solicitor sign on the front window? I was suddenly very angry. My life was beginning to crumble, and I didn't need to deal with these bullshit distractions. I decided I was going to tell this pork pie hat-wearing asshole off, so I opened the door.
Hello, sir. My name is Mr. Prudent, and I have an offer that will change your life.
The well-dressed gentleman said with a smile and some sort of Scandinavian accent. Dude, didn't you see the sign? No solicitors. I don't have time for this, I said as I began to close the door. Mr. Prudent placed his recently shined dress shoe in the threshold and stopped the door from closing.
But Mr. Sherwood, aren't you looking for a new source of income? We can make you a wealthy man. I just need 15 minutes of your time.
Mr. Prudent said with a glimmer in his light blue eyes. I don't know why I opened the door, but before I knew it, he barreled past me through the foyer, past my living room, and took a seat at the bar stool by the kitchen counter.
Do you have a hot tea with lemon, perhaps? The
strange man said. No, I don't have any fucking tea. What is this all about? You're barging in here talking about sources of income and lemon beverages, but I haven't heard anything substantial yet. Just tell me why you're here so we don't waste each other's time, I said, as I leaned on the counter across from him.
Very well, Mr. Sherwood. I will cease with the superfluous pleasantries. I represent a collection of gentlemen who like the finer things in life. Money, power, women, and of course, a gentlemanly wager. And so I have a proposal for you.
The lanky Swede reached down and picked up the briefcase he had carried with him. He placed it on the breakfast bar and cracked his knuckles. As he spun the combination dial and opened it, he said,
In this briefcase is $10,000. Just for your time this afternoon, I am prepared to give this to you and walk away. However, there is another proposal I have to offer you that will change your life forever. But I cannot tell you the terms of this deal unless you deny the offer of the $10,000. We need to know you are serious and that you have the intestinal fortitude to make the decision that awaits you should you choose to enter into our agreement.
What the hell was happening? $10,000 could really help my situation. I could pay the back mortgage due, and then 3 more months till I got on my feet. But if this weird motherfucker would just give me $10,000, how deep were the pockets of this society of gentlemen who wanted to give me money for making some decision? The whole thing did seem a little fishy to me. Nothing is free. No goofy-looking Swedish guy just gives you 10 grand for nothing. I just know I couldn't walk away with the briefcase not knowing what may be in the vault. Well, what kind of decision? I said with my eyebrow cocked. Mr. Prudent's smile grew wider as he shut the briefcase and placed it back down at the floor near his feet.
I cannot tell you the nature of the decision. I can only tell you the stipulations. You will be given a choice between 2 things. You must choose one or the other, and the thing will happen no matter what. No matter the decision you make, you will be awarded a fee of $5 million tax-free in a Swiss bank account. You can do with the money what you wish, but you must always reside here in your hometown. You cannot change your identity or move away.
Okay, I think I get it. You're going to make me do something illegal and take the fall or something. I'll get screwed over somehow. I know I should have just fucking taken the $10,000 or probably yet never opened the fucking door.
Mr. Sherwood, I can assure you that you will not be breaking any laws. There will be no legal recourse for either of the choices that you make if you accept our terms. And either way, you will receive the fee of $5 million tax-free in a Swiss bank account.
For some reason, I knew that whatever choice I made, if I entered into some kind of agreement with this Mr. Prudent's gentleman society, my life would change forever. I had given up my shot at the free $10,000. I could leave empty-handed, but I would always wonder, what was this decision I would have to make? What would have been? $10,000 would float me, but $5 million, I could live like a fucking king. Can I have some time to digest this? I said, with a hand on my brow.
I'm afraid the decision must be made immediately. My benefactors are watching and awaiting your acceptance of the terms of our agreement.
As Mr. Prudent finished his spiel, I noticed there was a man outside my window videotaping me. In fact, there were shadowy figures with cameras near most of the windows to the outside. For the first time in our conversation, I noticed the LED light flashing in the camera in Mr. Prudent's pork pie hat. Is this candid camera or some shit? Fuck you, man, this isn't funny, I said, both angry and confused. For the first time, Mr. Prudent was not smiling.
I can assure you that the group of gentlemen I represent do not view this arrangement in a comedic manner. You must now make your choice. I can bid you adieu and take the promise of $5 million tax-free in a Swedish bank account with me, or you can agree to our terms.
He said. No laws are broken, you said. Does anybody get hurt? What do I have to do? I said, almost in tears at the thought of the offer vanishing, leaving me in my debt and at my wit's end.
No legal consequences, no violence to be committed. Sir, that is the last thing I have to say about the matter.
Mr. Prudent picked up the briefcase and stood up.
Now, if you excuse me.
Okay, wait. I will do it. I want the money. I need the money. What do I have to do? I said, defeated. Mr. Prudent's wide and perfect white teeth grinned at me again.
I am pleased that you have decided to enter our arrangement,
Mr. Prudent said. Didn't you say earlier? Enough of the bullshit? What is the decision I have to make? I said.
It's a simple decision, Mr. Sherwood. You seem like a virile young man, and your virility may be put to the test. I am ready for the contract and the supplies, gentlemen,
Prudent said. Both my front and back doors opened as men in tactical gear entered my home. They carried silenced automatic weapons and wore ski masks. Among the men was some sort of doctor. He wore scrubs and a surgical mask and carried a small black bag.
This is my colleague, Dr. Mata. He may be assisting us today should we need his services. As you so eloquently stated, enough with the bullshit. I'm prepared to ask you the question you are being so generously compensated to answer.
I threw my hands up exasperatedly, waiting to hear what he had to say.
Option number 1. Dr. Mata will inject you with a form of male enhancement that will enable you to maintain an erection in what you may think might be some of the most trying circumstances. You will be placed into a room where for 24 hours you must copulate with the most undesirable person you have ever met. We do mean the most vile and disgusting human being you have ever physically interacted with. Dr. Mata has developed a serum that will make you tell us the truth about who this person is, and our means of procuring them are almost endless. This person will thoroughly enjoy the encounter and be madly in love with you. After the 24-hour period, their memory of the encounter will be completely removed. No one will have to know that you did it after the fact, but the memory will be burned into your cerebrum forever, and it will always be photographic and crystal clear. Any attempted masturbation or any sexual activity, and the image of this encounter will be shockingly present in your mind's eye. Option number 2, our team of the best computer graphics engineers will create a video so painstakingly realistic of said encounter that no one will ever think it's fake. You won't have to actually have a 24-hour fuckfest with the most disgusting person you have ever met, but we will have video footage of you doing just that. This footage will be broadcast worldwide on the internet and available for anyone to watch at any time. As I said before, you cannot move or change your name and must remain under the scrutiny of your local community for this atrocious sexual misdeed.
My jaw dropped. This was fucked up. I tried to clear my mind and not think who was the most disgusting person I'd ever met. The voice of Mr. Prudent sent me back to reality.
If you do not make a decision, we are prepared to end your life within the next 5 minutes. It will not be painless or a quick death, but it will not be a torturous one either,
Prudent said. This was fucked up. Whatever choice I made, my life would never be the same. I'd either be an extremely wealthy pariah and the butt of everyone's jokes, or I'd never be able to get it up again. Maybe that wouldn't be true. Maybe I could get past the image with a pile of porn stars slobbering all over my balls. I couldn't even think who the most disgusting chick I'd ever been with was, but I didn't care. I could plow the most disgusting pussy in the world for $5 million, tax-free, in a Swiss bank account. Fuck you, Mr. Prudent. I hope someone pisses in your next glass of lemon tea. I choose option number 1, I said, as I made the DX suck-it hand gesture towards the Swedish meatball. I felt a slight sting in the back of my neck as Dr. Mata's needle put me under. I awoke strapped onto a hospital bed in a gray brick-walled room. I was naked, and my throbbing erection pointed straight up into the sky painfully. My vision was a little blurry. I heard some kind of small motor operating to my left side getting closer to me and turned towards the source. That's when I saw her. I never knew her name. I only lived at the shitty little farmhouse outside of town for a few months before I bought my house. The click of the control in the motorized wheelchair was closing in. Spilling over the back and sides of the seat was the granddaughter of my former landlord. I never knew her name. I had only seen her a dozen times or so, but when I tried to block the thoughts of the most unattractive people from my past, I hadn't even thought of her. The reason that she had to use a motorized wheelchair was the extreme lipedema in her almost elephantitic legs. In addition to being mentally retarded and morbidly obese, the poor girl had legs the size of college linebackers. Imagine the Elephant Man, or maybe that redheaded guy from the movie Mask, and not the one with Jim Carrey, as some chick's legs. She would always wear these stained hospital gowns or muumuus or something. She had a plethora of ruddy chins and broken yellow chiclets for teeth that were few and far between. A face like a Picasso painting topped with stringy yellow hair and centered with large eyes, with one wandering and drooping down. As she regarded me, a thick mucus drooled from the left corner of the gash she used as a mouth. She made a sucking sound, and the wheelchair slammed into the side of my prison of a bed. Her lobster claw-like fingers ripped away the thin material of her gown, and so her pancake titties flopped down to her peach fuzz-riddled belly. After a moment, they sort of slid further down her sides in the grease and sweat from underneath her immense floppy breasts. The different moles and skin tags from her neck and chin seemed to have grown and multiplied since the last time I saw her. She slid off her wheelchair onto the bed and straddled my thighs below my throbbing and confused dick. She moaned, lifted her fupa with both hands. I could hear a slurping sound as the roll spread and she almost hopped aboard me. As I penetrated her immense vagina, the only smell I could try to describe what hit me as would be a sardine factory that somehow caught fire months after the apocalypse. She squealed as she gyrated aboard me. I felt my soul begin to break. I knew I'd never be able to fuck again. Not after today. Not with this image in my mind. It's what it must have been the first of many of her orgasms started. I realized she had a colostomy bag. I noticed a second too late. As her hips rocked and she screamed, she threw her flappy arms into the air. Problem was, as she did so, her right hand hooked the top of the shit bag, and about 4 pounds of human shit splattered over myself, the beast above me, and the bed I was tied into. For a full day's time, I was forced to experience every perversion known to man with her, and she loved every minute of it. Quite possibly the most disturbing thing to happen was about 18 hours in, I realized I was no longer fucking her ass like I thought. I had slipped into the colostomy bag hole. Blood and shit, as well as partially digested junk food, caked my pubes and lower belly. 24 hours after I heard the sound of her wheelchair, my ordeal was over. My rapist left on her hover-round, and Mr. Prudent returned. He presented me with the information necessary to claim my new loaded offshore bank account. They didn't even allow me the decency of a shower before a limo dropped me off in front of my house. I had been through a lot, but that didn't matter now. I clutched the envelope Mr. Prudent had given me that contained the check. Too bad it was a Sunday. I couldn't deposit it. I had to wait until Monday. Didn't matter what day it was after all, because the check didn't clear. The fact that I didn't get the $5 million might not have been the worst part. As I turned on the evening news, it was interrupted, as was every other television in America. Interrupted with a 24-hour-long video of me fucking a retarded fat girl with a colostomy bag.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that was a true life experience, right?
No. I took a real setting of my farmhouse.
Yeah, I remember the farmhouse.
Do you remember the neighbor?
I don't remember. I never saw the neighbor. No. Oh wait, no, I did see the neighbor. Yeah.
And the neighbor
neighbor's daughter.
I didn't see the neighbor's daughter.
She didn't have a hover round or a colostomy bag. She had some skin tags and some moles, but that was the fire behind the story.
Wow.
Thank you, Mr. Prudent.
Did you have some secret sexual fantasy about
You
it?
have to ask me those questions as Mr. Prudent.
Did you have some secret sexual fantasy about her that you had to express in writing?
No.
Okay.
She used to try to play with my, at the time, 5 and 3-year-old daughters.
Oh.
And I ended that. I let it happen at first because I knew she was, like, retarded.
Yeah.
I don't know what the modern day word for it is, but...
Mentally disabled.
Yes. When she came over with eyeshadow on one day and told Kaylee that she was pregnant, then I stopped it.
Oh.
She was never pregnant. She's fucking crazy.
Right.
But that was the basis.
Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah. I hope you guys enjoyed that story as much as humanly possible.
It was a squishy pasta more than a creepy pasta.
Yeah, it's more of a disturbing, disgusting pasta. But I wrote that, and
little fucked up game of Would You Rather.
I honestly, if you think about it, our patrons, for the small sum of $1 to infinite dollars a month, they get to hear things like this.
Yeah.
I wrote this story. We produced this. There's going to be sound effects. Oh, yes, there's going to be some squishing sound effects. You've already heard them. That takes time, guys.
Yeah.
That takes time. I spend hours and hours of my life on the show.
I know
every week.
I know you're a vegetarian for ethical reasons, but you got to get a couple steaks and slap them together for the sound effects there. Maybe have Aubrey do it.
I'm actually going to masturbate and make my own sound effects.
Okay.
Those will be the sound effects that have already previously been inserted. You've already heard me masturbate during this creepy pause.
And now that's in your mind forever.
And as you think about those sounds, I just wanted you to think about, instead of it being me masturbating, it being me placing my dick into the colostomy bag hole of a retarded girl in a hover round that has a little elephantitis of her legs.
Wow. One of her legs looks like Rocky Dennis.
Where does this come from? I have a good life, Tom.
Yeah, you do.
I swear.
Yeah.
I love my children. I love my wife.
Yeah.
I have a good job.
Yeah.
We have the show.
Yeah.
I'm a happy person.
Right. Sometimes.
Where does this come from? Where do these stories come from?
Somewhere in the back of your brain is a demon.
I'll tell you where it comes from. I'll tell you where. You know how I wrote this story?
Drunk.
No. Yes. Well, that's true. But another thing, your dollars fueled this story, listeners. You know why? I wrote this story because I thought I needed a creepy pasta for the next post-mortem show Patreon, and I sat down and I wrote you a little story.
So what you're saying is this is our patron's fault?
It's their fault, and it's directly because of their hard-earned dollars has fueled this tale.
Yeah. They're
I
like
hope
your
you enjoyed
views.
it. Please, you guys, send us an email, postmortemshow@gmail.com. Let us know how you think about this story.
Yeah, let us know how you feel about that. and my fantastic Swedish accent.
Yes, Mr. Prudent. I'm just going to call you Mr. Prudent from now on. Yeah. You are now Mr. Prudent.
If it smells like fish.
You finish it. You just finish it.
Throw the fucker back.
Alright, we hope you enjoyed our Patreon sampler, the Stephen Byro interview, and a little bit of the best of Postmortem, some monster mashups for you the first time we did it. There was a monster mashups too if you guys want to look for it. If you go to our website, if you want to find any of these top fives or anything we ever talked about, there is a search function on postmortemshow.com. You can search for any of the top fives or anything we talked about that, if you're trying to remember a certain episode or anything like that. But Dom will be back next week. If it smells like fish, throw the fucker back.